Hey everyone, it's Deja from Crochet Ever After, and today I'm making the Arches Cowl. So this is just a mini version of it. That's why it's so small. It actually kind of looks like, you know, a finger cuff mitt kind of thing, which you could totally make if you like the way this looks with all the holes. Just follow how many chains I do in the video instead of how many chains the pattern tells you to do, and you can make 2 of these for cuffs. But to make an actual cowl, download the pattern, get some super bulky yarn and a 10mm hook. I'm not telling you the letter because, as you can see, Clover finally, you know, helped us out and put both letters that 10mm can be found in. Find one that says 10mm. If it says a letter, make sure it says 10mm. So just grab that, grab your yarn, grab the pattern, and let's get started. To start our Arches Cowl, what we're going to do is put a long tail. So we want to make a tail long enough that we can sew the cowl up at the end. So like 24 inches is probably good. So I'm just going to pull that to the side and then create a slip knot for my hook. So I always turn down, reach through, and pull a loop. Then put that on my hook. Now you're going to chain 44. I am going to do less chains just so that you can see the pattern a little easier. It'll be easier to see when I'm joining it. So I'm going to do less. If you want to make this cowl bigger, or if you want to make it just a really long scarf, add multiples of 6 stitches. So 44, then you would go to 50, then 56, 62. Just keep adding 6 stitches until you get the size that you like. So the pattern repeat is 6 stitches. It's kind of 6 plus 2. So for anybody that knows that kind of lingo, our repeat is 6 plus 2. So I'm going to do 20 stitches. That will give me enough to show you the beginning repeat, the middle, and the end of the repeat. So I'm going to go ahead and do 20. So I'm going to yarn over front to back, turn my hook down and pull through, then push to my shaft. So we do that to get nice even chains. And I'm going to go till I get 20, and then we'll start with row 1. All right, I got my 20 stitches. You can actually fit it in the screen so you can see everything that's going on. Now we're going to start the first row, and the first row is just kind of like an edging to the cowl to give it a nice look on the top and bottom. What I want to do though is work into my bottom bump. So if you're not familiar with working into the bottom bump, the benefits are that the chain that you just made and all those V's are going to be on the bottom of the cowl, giving it a nice edge. So normally if you're just working a regular project, you'll go into the back loop and start doing your stitches, and then that gives you kind of this twisted edge. So you get this twist instead of the V's. The reason that I like to put the V's on the bottom is because my finishing row up top, or any row that you make in crochet, is going to have V's on top. So this will give it V's on both ends and just make it look a little nicer. To work into the bottom bump is a little bit more time consuming, but I think it's totally worth the effort. So when you turn your chain over, you'll see these little dashes that are coming across your chain. So if you turn it sideways, you can see that it's like a little bump, which is why we call it the bottom bump. And you're going to go under that loop. So when I look, I have my very first bottom bump that I'm skipping. So we always skip that first chain when we're doing single crochets. And then I'm going to go under this bottom bump of the next one. So I'm just catching that one loop, and then I'm going to single crochet. Pull up my loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. And I keep doing that. So now my chain is turned so I can see the bottom bumps easily. Just trying to go in, it's impossible. You kind of have to use your fingers to help guide you through. So get used to that. That's one of the fun things of the bottom bump. You gotta kind of really work for it to get through it. But it makes a really pretty edge, so you can see it looks nice right there. You can also, if you are familiar with a foundation single crochet, you can use that here, which is always a nice edge, and that will be your row 1. So if you do if you do foundation single crochet, you're gonna do 43 of them. I have a tutorial on how to do foundation single crochet. So you'll make 43, that will be row 1, and then you'll come back and begin row 2 instructions. So we're going to keep single crocheting across. Make sure you count your stitches at the end. You should have 43 of them. Count your tops. If you're not used to counting the front of your stitches, just count those V's. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and just keep going till you get to your 43. I'm going to have 19 when I'm done, and then we'll keep going. Can't speak today. I'm on my last stitch, last bottom bump. Insert my hook through it. Sometimes this very first chain can be a little smaller than the rest, so it can be a little difficult getting your hook through. Just push it through and it will make it. Now we're going to turn and start row 2. So we're going to chain 1. What we do for single crochets, we don't count that as a stitch, so we always work into that very first stitch or the very last one that we made. And I'm going to do a single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to do one in this first one and one in the next one. Then my instructions tell me that I'm going to chain 3 and skip 3 stitches. So I chain 3, and that takes the place of working any stitches into these 3. So if you're not sure how to count these stitches, you can either pull them apart and look for those nice big holes. You see 3 of those, and that's 3 stitches, and you'll work into the 4th. Or use your top V's, as I always say, and count them. We have 1, 2, 3, and then we're working into that 4th one. So both easy ways to start recognizing your stitches. Once you get going, once you've done it a while, you'll be able to just tell where that goes. So I did a single crochet. I'm going to do 2 more. So you'll see on the pattern now that we have some stars, and those are our repeats. So you repeat it until it tells you to stop. So it says single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So here's 1, then I do 2 and 3, and then it says to chain 3 and skip 3 stitches again. And then my repeat stops because I'm going to keep doing those 2 things over and over till I reach the end of my row. So I do 3 single crochets, and my row is really short because I'm going to finish it right here. And then I do 3 chains and skip 3 stitches, and it says to my last 2 stitches. So if I'm counting correctly, I should have 2 stitches left, which I do. Hopefully you do too. So I skip 3, and then it says to single crochet in my last 2 stitches. So that is your row 2. Super easy. It makes these nice big holes that we're going to work into for row. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is chain 1, and then we're going to single crochet in that very first stitch that or the last stitch that we just made. We're going to single crochet in it, and then you'll see that our pattern repeat begins on our written pattern. We see a star, and it says to skip our next stitch, which is that single crochet, and then we're going to do 5 double crochets in our chain 3 space. So we're going to work all the way through that big hole. We're not going to work into the chains. So we yarn over, insert through that big hole, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. So we do that 4 more times, and that's going to create the arch for our arches. And you'll see I kind of got to hold on to this stuff when you're working around chain spaces because your work wants to move and go with it, so you've got to use all your fingers to kind of keep your work together as you're going. You'll get better at it as you go. Then our repeat says to skip the next stitch. So that's the first of 3 single crochets that we made of the row below. So you can use those V's again, and then it says to single crochet in that middle one. So the next stitch we're single crocheting, and then our repeat starts over. We skip the next stitch, 5 DC in this next chain 3 space. I keep putting my arm on my slack so I can't get any. Need to move my yarn somewhere else. So since this is a very short row for me, I'm just going to keep going so you can see how these double crochets come along. 4, 5. And then we're going to single crochet in that middle stitch. So once you realize how the pattern goes, you don't have to read it. It's an easy pattern. It's 5DC, single crochet in the middle stitch, 5DC, single crochet in the middle stitch. Except for this very last part. So you'll see that the pattern repeat goes up to skip the next stitch and then SC, and then it tells you to repeat ending with an SC in the last stitch. So it's just telling you, it's kind of reminding you that when you skip this next stitch, which is this one here, you are doing a single crochet in this very last stitch. You're not adding an extra one. It's just saying, yeah, you're right, this is where we're ending it with that single crochet. So we skip one and single crochet in the last one, and now we have some arches. All right, for row 4, we're gonna now kind of recreate what we did with row 2, but offset so that our arches are not stacked on top of each other. So the first thing we're gonna do is chain 1 and single crochet in that very first stitch. Then we're gonna create kind of a mini chain by just chaining 1 and skipping that first double crochet. Then we're starting that pattern. We're going to do 3 single crochets in the middle, 3 double crochets of our row below. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to chain 3 and skip 3 stitches. So the 3 stitches that we're skipping are the very last double crochet of our arch, the single crochet that we made below, and then the DC of the next arch. Then again, we're doing 3 single crochets on top of those double crochets. And then again, chain 3, skip 3. So again, you can use your V's. They're all the same no matter what kind of stitch you're making. 1, 2, 3. Work into that one. 1, 2, 3. And then at the very end, it tells you, you're going to repeat across doing those 3 single crochets till the last 2 stitches again. Now we're going to chain 1, just kind of mirroring what we did at the beginning of the row. We're chaining 1 and then doing a single crochet in that very last stitch. So now we've created some more spaces to make some more arches for our next row. Okay, time for row 5, and this is kind of the end of the repeating. Everything else is just kind of a repeat of what we've already done. So the first thing we're going to do is chain 3, and that's going to count as a double crochet. So you could do a chain 3, or if you've seen my other videos, you can do a tall chain with a double crochet, whatever you want to do for that very first stitch. But that's going to be in place of this single crochet, so that's going to be for that stitch. Then we're going to do 2 double crochets around this chain 1. So we're creating kind of a half arch over here because we're offset for this pattern. So yarn over, insert your hook through that chain 1 space, pull up a loop, do 2 double crochets, and then just like our last arch, we're doing a single crochet in the middle of that 3 single crochets. So our pattern tells us to skip the next stitch, single crochet, skip the next stitch, and then 5 double crochets in the chain 3 space. So very easy. This row, the setup row, the one that we just did, is a little bit more complicated because you got to get everything in the right place to be able to do this row. So that one you kind of got to go back to, but once you get to this row, it's kind of like a TV row. Catch up on your stuff. So the row before is your commercial row where you need to pay attention, or no, yeah, where you need to pay attention, you don't want to watch the commercials. And then this is your Walking Dead row where you can just keep going as you watch your show. So we're almost at the end here. Okay, we got 3, 4, and 5. And then we're skipping. And then we're at the end of our row. So it says to continue the pattern, and it has in the pattern to skip the next stitch. That's why it says to keep working it to the last 2 stitches, even though we have 3 stitches left, because part of the pattern says to skip the next stitch. So on these last 2, one is a chain 1, and then that's a single crochet. So it says to double crochet 2 times in that chain 1 space, just like we did at the beginning of the row. And then do 1 double crochet in that last single crochet. Oops, I missed a loop. Okay. Okay, now we have our little offset arches. So we're ready for the last row of the repeat before you guys are gonna do another full repeat before the end of the cowl. I am stuck with my tail. There we go. So this is just resetting up those chain 3s. It's different because we have double crochets that we're working into now, whereas down here we were just working into the single crochets. So it's just slightly different, but basically the same concept. So we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to single crochet in our first 2 stitches, just like we did on row 2. Except now we're working into double crochets instead of single crochets. Then we're going to create our hole with our chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Skip 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. And then do 3 single crochets. So these 3 will be in the top of our double crochets, just like we did for this row right here, where we created that hole. 3, then another chain 3, skip 3, and then you just keep doing that across until you get to those last 2 stitches again, and that's where we'll do the mirror image of what we did before. So here's our last 2. So our last 2 is a double crochet and a chain 3, unless you did the tall chain with the double crochet. So we work into that first, we do a single crochet in that double crochet. Yes, single crochet in the double crochet. Make sure I'm saying that right. And then we're doing a single crochet in the top of the chain 3. So we go 1, 2, 3, and just kind of stick your hook right in the center and do a double crochet there. And then we are set to do the next couple rows, which you'll see in the instructions. Okay, so if you're using the yarn that's recommended in the pattern, you're gonna get about 3 more rows out of it. 3 more plus the finishing row, because the yardage is so small, but it's great yarn, so that's why I use it. But you're gonna repeat row 3, 4, and 5. So you'll have this hole here, and then you'll have 1 more hole up here, and then you'll have your finishing row, which I'll do in a, should I do 1 more? Yeah, I'm gonna do 1 more. I'm gonna do row 3 just to put the arches so you can see that very last row in there. So I'm gonna do 1 more row without you, but you're gonna do 3 more if you're using the same yarn. If you're not and you have more yarn, you can go as high as you want. You're just gonna repeat rows 3, 4, 5, and 6. But you want to end with a row 5 repeat, which is, or even a row 4, as long as you're ending with like an arch row where you're not ending with one of these rows, because it'll just look kind of silly when you do your edging on it. As long as you end with one of these arch rows, you're good to go. So you can make it as wide as you want. So I'm going to do 1 more row with the arches, and then I'm going to show you the finishing row, which is super easy. And then we'll join. Okay, I just did that row of arches so that I can finish this off. So you can see I have 1 more row that I did. And then to finish this, super basic, what we did in the beginning, we're chaining 1, and then we're going to single crochet in every stitch we come to. So if we did the finishing row on that last one I had, then you would have just kind of this skimpy little hole where there's no arch. It's not getting pulled up by the double crochet. So, you know, if you had to, if you're like trying to use up every scrap of yarn and that's what you ended up with, that's fine. You know, if you don't mind how it looks. But if you want it kind of to be symmetrical, then go ahead and finish on an arch row and then single crochet to finish it off. So I'm almost at the end here. Then we will sew this up. Okay, here's my last single crochet, and I'm going to fasten it off and cut. This yarn, just in case you're wondering what this yarn is, this is the same as my pocket super scarf that I have up. It's a Bernat, I'm pretty sure it's Bernat, whatever. Bernat, B-E-R-N-A-T, softy, chunky, and gray heather. It's a super bulky, nice and comfy, easy to use with my 10mm. Now I'm ready to join. So let me grab a yarn. Look at my thing, it's broken, I need a new one. I'm going to use a metal needle to get through my yarn a little easier. So I have a way longer chain than I need, or way longer tail than I need to join this. So I could even probably use this one that I cut off, but I'm going to make it work. So what we're going to do is use a mattress stitch. So the mattress stitch creates kind of this invisible seam where it's going to lay like right, it's going to butt up against each other. So instead of doing like a whip stitch where it's going to create kind of a little bit of visible area, the mattress stitch kind of helps to hide everything and makes it line up right against each other. So I'm going to cut this tail a little bit, otherwise it's going to get in my way. So the mattress stitch is pretty easy. You can really go like right side, wrong side, doesn't really matter. I'm going to do it with the right sides facing in, and the right sides I'm going off of my double crochets, so you can, the little come across here that you see on the double crochets, that's the right side of a double crochet. The back side of a double crochet has kind of this little bump across and a little weavy thing, so it looks a little different on the back. So I'm going to fold the right sides together, and then I'm going to start with my mattress stitch. So I have my yarn already attached, love it, and then I'm just going to go across to a stitch over here on the other side and pull it closed to start off. Now a mattress stitch, it's what you're doing is you're weaving it back and forth. So instead of going straight back over to the other side, I'm going to go over here just one loop more and pull that through over here first. So it's going to create like a loop over here, and then I'm going to come over here to a loop and pull it through and then create a loop over here. So I come down to the next one, and you'll see I have a little loop here, and then kind of keep it a little bit apart when you're going. Don't tighten it all down just yet. That way you can see where your loops are going so that you can figure out where you got to go next, especially with the same color yarn. So these loops from all of our different kinds of stitches are a little bit harder to work into because there's no like defined edge. If I was doing a mattress stitch down here, I would have easy loops to work into, but here you kind of just got to guesstimate and work into what you can find. So when you're fast at it, you can just go like straight across to the other side and put your needle in, but I want you to kind of see what I'm doing here. And this one's good too because you don't have to totally line up your project as if you're doing a single crochet join or a mattress stitch, you want to line everything up, but because This is kind of going back and forth. As long as you have that beginning thing lined up and your ending, the rest will kind of fall in. So if you start running out of yarn, you can see my yarn's getting a little shorter here, just start tightening down what you have. So you can see I have kind of a big gap here with all these loops. All I do is grab it and then pull, and it gets through all of it and pulls it close together. So now you can see that it's butting up and it's nearly invisible. I always say nearly, even if it's totally invisible, just because there'll be somebody that's like, I could still see it. Lovely commenters that like to get my goat. So I don't ever say perfect, nearly invisible, or anything like that. But I think it's invisible right now. Commenters, go for it. Alrighty. And very last one, you'll see as long as I match that up with the ends, my edges line up. And then I pull on it again, nice and tight. And I'll weave these in. I got like a little cuff here. This might make like a nice little kitty cowl. I'm gonna try this on my cat or my dog. I have a tiny dog, so that might work well. So you're gonna weave in those ends. Actually, did I lose? I lost one. I lost one when I was turning it inside out. What happened? Or maybe I didn't grab that last bit there. Don't fasten off till you turn it inside out. Okay. Then I love to double knot stuff. I don't care. Because this is really chunky yarn, so you can't see my double knot. I'm sure a commenter will say I can. So now you can see my ends are all woven in, and then we have our nice little face. It looks like a little tiki face. So that is your cowl. Go ahead and share pictures with me. Check out my Facebook page and put some pictures up of what you've finished. I would love to see it, Crochet Ever After, and I will be back with another one very soon. So thank you for watching.